So between
Instructors.
the age of 12 and 18, I was in 10 different jails.
Wow.
Yep. All the way from
Wow.
Galveston, Texas City, Pasadena, Houston, County, and
Welcome everyone to episode 10 of Processing the Process with myself, Melvin Johnson. This episode, I'm super excited for this episode for several reasons. One, this is episode 10. To be able to get to number 10 is amazing for me to be able to continue to keep going. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I hope to get to episode, 210. But, this is episode 10, but you got to start somewhere. But more importantly, this is the last episode of 2019. Yeah,
lucky
Vic.
me,
Yep.
lucky me.
Lucky you. So this is the
take
last
it.
episode of 2019.
Say the best for last.
The best for last of the decade. But we've talked. We know each other. Some people may have seen you in my most recent Instagram post, Ronnie, episode 1, calling me out for not getting to the gym, which is what you want out of a trainer.
Hey, you
It
gotta
goes
be
to show
accountable.
You have to be accountable.
Yeah.
But I know you from the gym, obviously, but I know your story. And your story is very inspirational. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this. But without me telling your story too much, please, Vic, introduce yourself.
So my name is Victor Alencastro, and I grew up in Pasadena. Born and raised there. Always been in Houston my whole life, and I grew up in a family, a household of nothing but self-starters. And my dad had his own business, my mom had her own business, and so he always kept us busy. We always stayed busy.
Always busy.
Always busy.
And that's a good place to start because I really like to start this show talking about how you grew up. Rather, you grew up in an entrepreneurial type family, or it was just in your zeitgeist and you were just always thinking about how to make money, how to start a business, how to start your own business, selling candy out your backpack. But
Yep.
So you grew up in a family where it was you seen hard work and someone working for themselves.
Yeah, well, in our family, basically, work was more important than school. I'd get home and my dad put me to work before I did any of my homework.
Really?
So, yeah, straight up. And he had his business in Chicago, moved down to Houston. I was born here. And, I'd get home from school, 6, 7 years old, come home from school. We had a business that we sold to Fiestas, Kroger's, little peanuts and shrimp and pumpkin seeds. We packed them and sealed them and delivered them. And, it was a whole process. And so we would be minor. But still at the same time, we'd work for an hour.
Yeah.
Then we'd do our homework for another hour. And then if there was time, I'd play with my friends. And so,
So you had to schedule time to play with your friends. Like your work was first.
Yeah, and I would hustle them. I was like, hey man, y'all want me to play with y'all? Y'all want me to play with y'all? Come help me. You know? And so
help me pack
straight
this
up,
up.
that's
Yeah.
how it went. Hey, y'all come in. Had 3 or 4 of my friends waiting out the garage and bring it in, and they helped me out. And I was knocked out in 30 minutes instead of 2 hours. And
Nice.
yeah, it was good times.
Man,
I learned
this
a
is-
lot.
I imagine you use that, I would imagine, a lot today in your business, or just the way that you think about what you do for a living and what you're doing now. But that's an interesting fact for you to say that, because I think that how someone grows up can really translate into the way they approach business or just the industry that they're in, and knowing how to maybe even talk to people or.
Well, on top of that, it's crazy because you would think that as a parent, you would want school more than work, or school period, no work. But that also affected me coming out of high school. I dropped out in 10th grade, because I focused more on work than school.
Let's get into that.
And so I was making $35,000, and I was 19, 20 years old, working at a call center, and I thought I was making it. I thought I was rolling. All my friends are like, man, you always got money in your pocket, this and that. And, and so basically, a little bit before that, my parents got divorced when I was 7.
Okay.
So my mom had her own business selling Spanish cassettes and CDs at the flea market.
Oh, wow.
So I'd help my dad during the week, and then I'd go on Saturday and Sunday help my mom. And so, man, we would make $2,000 in 2 days, and obviously I get about $100.
Yeah.
Sold, if we sold a lot, we would get some buffet Chinese. If we didn't sell that much, we were at Church's Chicken.
Yeah. So when it was a good day.
And so but straight up, whenever I got in high school, whenever I dropped out of high school in 10th grade, I worked probably till I was like 21, 22. My friends all went to A&M. 4 or 5 years later, let's fast forward. They're back in my town, and they got $60,000 jobs. They're rolling out with new cars, and
Okay.
I'm still beat up in my little hoodoo.
So let's walk through this process because I want a lot of people to pick up on the information that you're dropping because I think it can go over people's head if they really don't pay attention and listen.
Yep.
So you were in high school.
Yep.
And you dropped out.
Yep.
But you dropped out and you were working and you were making money to the point that all your friends was like, oh, he's doing it. He's successful. He has X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. So coming out, my dad always told me, you got to have some money in your pocket. Mm-hmm. And so that was number one. That was always number one. You got to have money in your pocket. Mm-hmm. Never be with no money in your pocket. Even if it's $5, $10. And that mentality stuck with me. And, it ended up biting me in the butt. But, growing up, I was also a troublemaker. I was going in and out of jail for traffic tickets I didn't pay. And so I always focus on certain concept is it's difficult to be successful if you haven't failed. Mm-hmm. Failure is very important to any successful person.
It's just a part of the process.
It's a part of the process. If you're scared of failure, you're not going to grow.
Absolutely.
You got to do it and forget about failure and see where it takes you. And it's taken me all the way to a master's degree. Well, we'll get there.
I know. That's cool.
Yeah.
See, you guys, people gonna pick up. Like you went from you dropped a lot, but what you just said was really key because there's a quote that I've really kind of been sticking to. I've heard it in a song by Rhapsody. She said it in one of her songs, and I heard it somewhere else. But it goes, "A smooth sea doesn't make a skilled sailor."
Yeah.
Like you have to go through the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations, if you will, in order to be successful. Yeah. So, at what point did you, from high school, making, like you said, 30, 40,000, had money in your pocket, mm-hmm. and you started to see your friends come back around after leaving college, and now they surpassed you in wealth, I guess, and making money, and now it's like, what space were you in there?
So one of the things that I learned early on is the things that you talk about. Mm-hmm. If things you talk about, if you talk about it, and you talk about it, and you talk about it, and you're like, man, and you plan it out, and you plan it out in your head, and finally, like I told you, if you have no fear, mm-hmm. I was like 24, 25 years old, and I had a friend of mine, his name's Chris. He lives in San Antonio now. Okay. And he says, hey, I was talking to him about something. I don't know what he said. He said, hey, you can go back to college if you take a test. You don't got to get your GED. Because I went back to try to get my GED, and man, I wasn't having it. I wasn't focused. I was focused on money still. So long story short, I went in, mm-hmm. paid $100, took a test. Next semester, I was in school. Just like that.
So you're like, oh, wait a minute.
I did really good on the exam.
Okay.
Because I remember a lot of stuff, and literally I got a placement in, and I was like, that. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that.
Honestly, I did not know that.
Yeah, you don't need a GED. You don't need a high school diploma to get to school. As long as you get that placement test, you mm-hmm. don't get no remedials, you jump right in. And I didn't know that. And that was the best thing I could have done. That conversation changed my life.
So that one conversation, a good friend of yours, which you guys are still friends today, put your life in a different trajectory because you went back to school. Now, I know you brought it up. You said that you were in and out for parking tickets and things like mm-hmm. that. Was that before you took that test and went into school, or was that after you took the test?
So between the age of 12 and 18, I was in 10 different jails.
Wow.
Yep. All the way from Galveston, Texas City, Pasadena, Houston, County, and I ain't even a murderer. I don't even, I don't deal anything. I don't do drugs and that, but it's just, I got the traffic ticket, throw it in the back, and it's discipline.
Discipline.
I lack discipline growing up.
Okay.
And, and that's very important, especially in the process. Wow. Because you got to be disciplined.
So you went to college, which obviously takes a level of discipline. Mm-hmm. And so what school did you go to, first and foremost?
So I started out, man, that's crazy. I started at San Jacinto College for my associates. I took one class. Uh-huh. And then summer class, I took two. Before you know it, 2 years down the road, I took 3 or 4, 2 years down the road, I got an associate's. So I was like, if I stayed consistent and I did the work and I went to school mm-hmm. and I just put in the work, the rest of it will take care of itself. And that's exactly what it did. I couldn't believe it. My mom started crying because they're like, I'm a magical gift for the simple fact that I was untrainable. I was unteachable. I was a lost cause. Yeah. And so, they.
Well, what do you think you got that discipline, at least in that small regard, from starting at one class to 2 class? Was it just that you did the one class and completed and said, okay, I can do this. Let me mm-hmm. try to do 2 classes. Was it as simple as that? Like, what got you to say, you know what, let me turn my life around. Let me be a little bit more consistent. Let me be a little bit more disciplined. Was there anything that happened in that time that turned around for you?
Yeah, most definitely. The very first class was probably the most important class of my college career.
Okay.
Just because, my mindset was different. My focus was different. I used to sit in the back of the class. I used to want to be the class clown. I used to want to get the attention.
Okay.
Coming in after that, I was in the front of the class. I got there 15 minutes early. I stayed quiet. I hung around in the area where all the tutorials.
Okay.
I hung around in there. I hung out 2-3 hours at a time in there.
So you took it more serious.
So
it was
I
more
took it more
consistent.
serious, more consistent, because something clicked and said, how am I going to be stuck in this era when everybody else is growing and I ain't growing? How am I? If I got more resources, if I've been in business this long, how is this not going to help me in the future? And long story short, the schooling really gets you to open all doors.
Yeah.
And they can't take that away from you. Nobody can take that away from you.
Absolutely, it can't.
They can talk
you
about
completed
everything.
it.
Yeah, you completed it.
So you got your associates, and then from there you went to get your bachelor's, I'm assuming.
So I went to get my associates, and I got it for free.
Okay.
So my job paid for that. And then I was like, okay, now that I got this, I can't stop. I got to keep going, And so by that time, I was like 25, 26. And so I met somebody, my ex-wife, and I met her, and she was from a different culture. And so they're all studying. And so I got to a point to where I ended up meeting her. We got married, and she taught me something that I didn't know.
Okay, what was that?
Basically is that in order for you to obtain a higher level, you have to be more disciplined. So
Okay.
I got the first ground, I got the tested, I built it, the little foundation, but it takes more than that. It takes more than being consistent. It takes more than that because you got to be consistent, but on top of that, you got to be more. You got to put more time because you're learning a higher education. So even though you get the books, you got to actually learn it and know it.
And apply it.
And apply it. You got to apply it, And so my family, they're full of accountants. My brother's an accountant, my sister's an accountant, and I actually got a double bachelor's coming out of U of H Clear Lake, one in finance and one in accounting.
Wow. So you went from, let's just call it what it is, went from in and out of jail 10 times to let me just take one class and take this test and just starting to see to finishing with a double bachelor's.
Yeah.
That's a story in itself. That's a success right there.
And I was working at the time. I always worked 40 hours.
So you still working 40 hours?
I was still working 40 hours.
Okay.
Still working 40 hours. What blew my mind one time is whenever you complete a session or a semester, you look back and like, man, I did that. I did that.
It felt good.
That was me. I was in that class. I got that grade. Nobody gave it to me. I earned it. So there was this one semester I was working at Sherwin-Williams. I think it was part-time, full-time. I think it was full-time. And we had let go of a part-timer because I don't know what incident it was. And so they were like, hey, Vic, you need to work more hours. I said, fine. All right. So I was, for a full semester, taking 4 classes, which is a full load, right?
Yep.
And then on top of that, I was also working 60 hours a week.
Oh, you went to 60 hours a
I went
week.
to 60 hours a week. I did that for a full semester. A full semester. So I taught myself mentally as I went. The one class I took turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 4. I was like, well, if I put a little bit more discipline and give up and sacrifice a little bit more, I'm probably going to get a little more. So then I set some goals short term, and I went to work, got out every Sunday. That was my school day. I had, and so I made it work.
Man, let me talk about this. So what's crazy is because, in our work, we talk a lot about owning your calendar and taking hold of your calendar and being accountable. And it sounds like that's kind of what you did. Like, how strict were you with your calendar as far as studying? Obviously, you had your set times to go to class, set times to go to work. But how strict were you at that time in your life as opposed to going out, hanging out with friends, doing other things? Or did you still make time for that as well? Like, how strict were you with your calendar?
So what really helped me out a lot was the simple fact that whenever I started, I had already had a year under my belt. So when the 60 hours started, then I was like, all right. It took a lot of communication with my boss and HR because I had to set it up correctly. They wanted me to do that. So And on top of that, you had to get the right classes to fit the right schedule, to fit the right time, to fit the right program that you were going to do. So, and I don't know if you know too much, but there's different slots for different classes, but there's not very many options.
Yep, very aware.
Yeah.
Especially
So
with
with that being said, I sat down every semester before, and I literally looked at it, and I said, okay, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm having class. Saturday, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm doing 12-hour shifts. Saturday, 12-hour shift, and Sunday, I'm doing an 8-hour shift or a 12-hour shift. It added up to 60 hours.
Wow.
I was going to school 3 times a week.
Wow.
And I would not leave school until I was done with my homework.
Oh, so you
Yeah.
didn't take homework, like you leave class, like let's say class was from 2 to 3.
Yep.
You had to go to work or you were done at school for the day. You didn't go home immediately. You went to the library, studied, completed the homework, and got it out of the way.
Got it out of the way, went to tutorials, asked questions. I got it out of the way. I got to the point. I'm not very, I'm not going to say I'm not very smart. I'm very smart, but I'm not, it takes me a while to pick it up.
Okay.
And so I got to a point to where I was on my second semester. My first year at U of H was done. I was on my second semester, and I had a statistics class. Amazing teacher, awesome, but I couldn't pick it up. I could not pick it up for the life of me, and it was at 8:00 in the morning. So I went up to the teacher. I said, "Hey, true story, no BS, true story." I said, "Hey, do you mind if I come to your night class?" He said, "It's the same curriculum. And you want to come to my night class?" I said, "Yeah." "Can I come in the morning and then come back at night?" He said, "Yeah."
So you didn't want to switch. You wanted to go to both classes.
I went to both classes.
Okay.
The whole semester I went to both classes. That was the best thing I could have done because I learned it in the morning. He reiterated it in the evening. And while halfway through the class, I did my homework. So,
Smart.
and you have to do what works for you.
Absolutely. That's it right there. Do what works for you.
Do what works for you. And you have to know what works for you, and you have to set a plan. This is what's going to work for me. And this is what I got to do.
That's good.
Yeah.
Man, that's good.
Yeah.
So you set a plan. You didn't think inside this box like, hey, you thought outside the box. You knew he had a night class. You took the night class. Able to pass, obviously, and it worked out. So, fast forward a little bit more. So you get out of school.
Yep.
I know you said you got your MBA, so I'm not sure when you went back to get that. So
yeah,
I'm assuming you had to work in between. Before
I did.
Okay.
I did. I took a break. Yeah, I took a break. I got out of my 4-year and I went to go work for Sherwin-Williams.
Okay.
Well, I was already working for them, but I went to work as an internal auditor.
So you were like
I was
corporate side now.
Right. So I went to the corporate side instead of retail. But I went to Cleveland, and it's cold in Cleveland. It's cold
Cleveland,
in Cleveland.
Ohio.
Oh, man. I was so sad. I was there for 6 months. I was like, man, I can't do it. I can't
Texas
do it.
boy in
Man,
Ohio.
I can't do it. So I did it for 6 months, and
Yeah.
I told Sherwin-Williams, great company, and I told him, hey, look, I can't do it. I was like, put me in your store, make me an assistant manager. And, I wanted to make sure that I had a job while I looked for a job. So, but yeah, after that, I went ahead and found a job as a sales rep with PPG, competitor company.
Okay.
And I never looked back. That's my niche.
Yeah.
I like people. I love people. I love talking to people. I love learning from people.
Absolutely.
It just stimulates my mind when I talk to somebody that literally talks the jive that I talk.
Absolutely.
And even if you don't talk the jive I talk, it's a lot of teaching too. So, I got a lot of people that come to me for advice, on different things, because I've done so much and I've been through so much.
Yeah.
And which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've done a lot. Obviously, here we want to kind of share as much as we can and highlight some of the things that you put in place, which has been amazing thus far, just hearing that story. So, now you're in PPG, working. At some point, you maybe thought, I want to get even more of an education. You want to apply yourself even more.
Yep.
So then you went back to school again.
It worked out a little differently than that.
Okay.
So I got a small circle of friends. I've always had a small circle, like 8 friends.
Okay.
And I got this one friend. His name is John Chapa.
Okay.
He was honor roll, honorary society, top of his class at A&M, and and he was I always looked up to people like that. It's like, why can't I do that? And so one day we had a conversation. It all starts with a conversation. We had a conversation. He said, "Hey, I'm going to Dubai." And I said, "You're going to Dubai, man?"
Yeah.
I'm making 40, whatever, and
Yeah.
I'm going to Dubai, and this and that, and then we're going to go to Turkey. And I said, "Where are you going with?" He goes, "I'm going with my school." I said, "Really?" He was like, "What school?" He's like, "Remember I told you, Houston Baptist University." I said, I'm not knocking any. I'm Catholic, and I've never been to a private school at all whatsoever. Never been to any of that. And so I was like, okay. I was like, man, they give you a free trip? I was like, yeah. I was like, man, you know what? I'm gonna sign up.
Right,
Like literally, that conversation stimulated the trip. So then I was like, why does my mind work like that? So so here we are. So I started my MBA probably maybe at 32, 30, 31, something like that. Yeah. And again, you couldn't do one class there. You had to do a full set, you know. And then I was working, but I always had on the back of my mind, I want somebody else to pay for it.
Okay.
So I had my associates paid for by Sherwin-Williams. I had half of my U of H paid for by Sherwin-Williams. Now I was at PPG. Now they paid about a semester. And then in that transition, I went to a sales rep at Valspar because they paid a little bit more money, But fast forward a little bit, they paid for the other half. So long story short, I started the MBA program, and I didn't know what I did. These classes were intense.
Those MBA classes.
But it's a private school.
Yeah.
So it's like 30 kids in there.
Yeah.
And I'm used to University of Houston, Clear Lake. I'm talking, 200 kids.
Yeah.
So like you're right there and they're looking at you and you really, either you know it or you don't.
Yeah. It's almost like high school,
yeah,
so to speak, as far as that small amount of.
Man, I had a marketing class where I had to write a 15-page paper from my mind. Literally, like we studied and we in class handwrit 15 pages.
Oh, wow.
Handwritten. And, I couldn't believe that. I was like, you want me to gargle all this and then spit it out and write on this piece of paper?
Yeah.
And you're going to understand my handwriting? No laptops, no nothing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no
handwritten.
Nothing. Oh, it blew my mind. It blew my mind. But I stuck to my process. I stuck to my routine. I was like, it worked over here. It's going to work here. Stayed around with tutorials, hung out with smart people, asked a lot of questions, hung out at school. I can't do schoolwork at home.
Can't.
I cannot.
I get it. I agree with you there because I can't. A lot of people can work from home. I can't work from home. I need to be in the office environment for me to digest everything and just be in the work mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get you when you say that.
Yeah.
So you went. So wow. So it sounds like you kept a very strong, close knit of friends, and obviously friends that were doing something.
Yeah.
It sounds like that was very crucial in your process and being who you are today.
Most definitely. Because literally, just like they went to college, got a 4-year degree, I wanted to do that. And then one by one went to St. Thomas to get their private degree, one went to Rice, one went to St. Houston Baptist. They all got their master's. I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So I went and I signed up and I did that. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to be. The people around my circle, they don't criticize or anything.
Yeah.
We got some people that aren't, their degree, his name is RJ, and he works as a welder and he works hard.
Yeah.
And my brother, another one, he doesn't have a degree, but he works hard.
Yeah.
He works a lot. He works 6 days, sometimes 12-hour days, has one day off.
But you're still around people that are doing positive things, working hard, good work ethic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I wake up every morning, Melvin. I kid you not. I wake up every morning thanking God, I appreciate you giving me one more day. Thanks a lot. I'm going to make it happen today. I'm a very positive person. Yeah. And that's also, I think, one of the things that really helped me. Looking at things positive, even when they're not positive, thinking about positive. And so I have a lot of energy too. And so, all that combined together, the only thing that I needed to do is figure it out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you figured it out. I've witnessed it. I'm hearing the story. I know a little bit about the story, but learning more as we're talking here one-on-one. But, this whole show obviously is processing the process, breaking down what you did to get to where you are. I think people would look at you now and say, oh, he's successful. He has X, Y, and Z. Yep. Or some people may not know what you have, which is 100% fine, but they know that you're a little bit different in the way that you think about things, the way that you carry yourself. Yep. Like you said, very energetic. Yep. But hearing your story is like, since I've been doing this show, it's just always been a common theme. One is like your network, what you're talking about, making sure your network, talking to people, always talking to people, introducing yourself, not being afraid, but also being consistent. No matter what it is that you're doing. It sounds like you were always consistent with the schooling. Yeah. Obviously you learned, how can I get through school without me paying very much or nothing at all, which is smart.
And then it jumped into another level of consistency. I another level of consistency. I was done with my MBA, and then that throws into your personal life. That throws into you. For example, we work out with Ronnie, right?
Yep.
Our trainer. He made you accountable today,
Absolutely.
right? Next time you're probably not gonna miss.
Nope.
And so I've gotten to a point to where I'm so consistent that I go to a restaurant. I already know what I'm gonna order before I go into that restaurant because that's what I want, and that's
Yeah.
at my consistency level.
Uh-huh.
This is what I need. I know how I'm gonna feel when I'm done. I know how it works out. And it's very difficult for me
Makes sense.
to get off of that, and it led into that. And so I think I've created somebody that I thought I never would have become, but I took that first step.
Man, the first step.
I took that first step.
Man, you talked a lot about a lot of great things. If you had to boil it down, and maybe it's something that you already said and you just have to reiterate it, but what are some things that that you just did differently that led you to the success that you had today?
So always have mentors. Always have short-term goals and long-term goals, but obtainable goals.
Okay. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your
Yeah.
mentors. Who
Yeah.
do you have several mentors? Is it one? Is it two? Like, how do you view your mentors?
So
And- go ahead,
So
please.
I have four.
Okay.
Vice President, his name is Ross Lyman, Vice President of Retail Sales North America for Sherwin-Williams. Then I got another guy that I met, Pat Cleverly, which is also a Vice President for PPG. Every year that I worked for those companies in sales, we have a national sales meeting. So I made it a point to get out of my regional bubble
Okay.
and talk to people that are higher, talk to people expectations. What do they need? What are they working with? What are you searching? And mentors to me has been fantastic because I can pick up a phone and talk to a vice president that's already in it and say, hey, what am I doing wrong? What's going on? What can I do better? Hey, I'm going to go to this interview with these people. What would you ask? What are the things that you would do? And how would I prepare to that? Because your potential is there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of making sure you're prepared for what's coming.
Preparation.
Preparation is just and you gotta be prepared.
Yeah.
You can't just come in unprepared and expect to get results.
Yeah. Man, shout out to Shakisha. She was on the show and she talked about
Shakisha?
Yep. She's a model in New York. And for those who watch, she actually researched those companies that she was talking to go, the casting and everything. Yeah. And she knew, which kind of print they were looking for, whether you want to smiling. So she, again, just like you, and it's always been, because that's why I like this show so much, man. I hope people are listening because a lot of the stuff that people are saying is the same thing, but in a different way. It's the preparation. Yeah. Preparation. Yeah. And the same thing like goals, like you said, short-term and long-term goals. Yeah. And is that something that you do every year? Is that something you do? Like, how do you think about goals? Is that something?
So as I've gotten older, I actually do them. I try to do them every 6 months.
Okay.
I try to do them every 6 months because it takes a while for your short-term goals to hit. Depending on what they are. Regardless what it is. Yeah. And then I like to do my budget every 3 months, just so I know where I'm at. So I can because the things that I do is I want to make sure that I grow my wealth. And but I need to know where I'm at. I need to know where I'm going.
Absolutely.
And the only way I can know where I'm at is to do it consistently throughout the year. A lot of people don't know that financial side is important too, in terms of, I know I'm going on a tangent, but yeah.
No, you're good.
But most definitely, you got to know where you're at and you got to know where you're going. Hands down, no matter what it is. And so, just to give you a little simple story about what we're talking about right now, I work for a company called Sooner Container. Okay. And I had my MBA. It's my first job coming out of MBA, and I'm working there now. Okay. And so it's been the best job I ever had. So I'm really, I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? How am I going to do it? Long story short, I researched just like I did. I said, Vic, stick to the plan. Yeah. Research, learn the competitors of them, be prepared, go in there. And you would be surprised at the reaction I got when I was in that interview. Really? Yeah. I had the owner, I had the vice president of operations, I had HR. And I already knew them and where they came from and where they went to school at. So you knew their background. I knew their background through LinkedIn. I just, and I wrote it down and I was like, and he was like, yeah, Spencer. He's like, you're from Oklahoma, huh? Your son goes to OU. Yeah, how'd you know? I was like, hey, you're from A&M, huh? And then you into this. And, yeah. And man, that icebreaker changed the conversation.
Whole conversation.
Whole conversation. It went from not an interview to a conversation, which is exactly where I like to be.
Absolutely. That's
like
your
to
comfort
be-
zone. Like
That's my comfort zone.
we can talk, vibe off of one another.
Yep.
That's that's one heck of a gem for anybody still in sales, meeting with different clients, or anyone coming out of school or just looking for a new job, want to interview. Apply that. Like, do some research. Try to figure out how to make it a conversation and less of an interview if possible.
Yeah. And so with that being said, I got the job, and, I even had some power to pull in terms of like, I need this bonus too, because this and that.
Yeah.
I would assume once you get to a certain level, you want to know what you're worth.
Correct.
So if you want me, I know what I'm worth. And so I'm going to need you to understand that. And I'm going to tell you why I'm worth that.
Yeah.
And then, we're going to talk about it. And so, but yeah, I've actually built a resume of things that I know that can back up what I can bring to the table. And without that first step, I would have never done that. I would have gone live probably working at the plants.
Yeah.
In Pasadena, staying there, stagnant. And so, but family too. Family's important. We're tight.
Absolutely.
We're real tight knit.
I know your family is very tight knit.
Really, really tight knit. Hey, you're messing up. Hey, you're not doing this right. This doesn't look right. Let's talk. Sometimes too much.
It can be too much.
Sometimes
but having
too
that
much.
accountability from your friends, accountability from your family, accountability from our trainer, obviously. I get called out. I put it out there because, accountability is something that is key. And if you're accountable to yourself and those around you, I think that you are on the right track to be successful in whatever it is that you're doing.
I think you owe it to yourself.
Yeah.
You owe it to yourself to be accountable because people depend on you. Whether you think they do or not. Another funny story. There's a guy that we work out with named Sal. He talks a lot, right? So I post a lot of different stuff on Instagram, this and that. But he came up to me one day. He said, "Hey, you didn't post your Starbucks coffee picture today. What's going on?" And I said, the next day, guess what? I put that Starbucks picture every day, and what I'm trying to say is he made me accountable on a very, very low scale, but it's accountable.
Absolutely.
Because people are probably depending on you. People are probably dependent on that laugh. They're probably dependent on that smile. They're probably dependent on, whatever it is. Oh man, Victor's always got that joke, puts me right when I go to work.
Yeah.
You don't know who you don't
Never
know.
know.
You don't know.
Man, you never know. That's a jewel. I'm saying that because I can think how that applies to me in so many different ways. From, I'm thinking out loud, but we're on social media and there's a lot of things that I probably scroll through and I appreciate and I like and it's motivational and I need it, but I might not every time like it or comment. Although I'm still looking for it, just like you just said, like you're looking for it, you need, like it's there. You just need it. Even like this podcast. I put it out every week. I'm accountable to myself. I'm accountable to anyone that's watching, that's fans and family members that want to watch. And accountability is key.
Well, another thing too is, when I saw Ronnie's podcast, I was like, man, that sounds really positive. I want to be a part of that. It's like you attract. You probably don't know it indirectly. You attract good. You attract positive people.
Yes.
You attract that. If you put yourself in that atmosphere, you attract that.
Absolutely.
And and that's why you get all these awesome people that come in here and do these interviews. Because, what did I work out with you? Maybe 10 times.
Yeah.
And then we had one conversation at Corner Bakery.
Yeah.
And here I am.
Yep.
And then we're gonna be friends forever.
Absolutely.
And so with that being said, you just never know what's going to happen, where somebody's going to go, what somebody's going to do, and I'm just ready for new adventures. I'm ready for new ventures. I'm ready for joint ventures.
Yeah.
So you get a room of a lot of powerful people. You don't know what can come up out of that.
You don't know what's come up. Yeah. Man, speaking of that, I'm about to close out the show. And again, thank you for being here. Episode 10, closing out 2019, about to go into a new year. But like I always do at the end of the show, I always want to ask, is there anyone that is on your radar from a business level that you want to meet on a business level, whether it's for work, whether it's, that person can help you in your career, whoever that is there anybody that you would like to meet? And it's a one question, two-parter. you can also apply that to a personal. So you can pick 2 people or however many you want. But is there anyone personally, just selfishly, you're just a fan of that person? You just want to pick their brain. You just want to fan out a little bit. So is there anybody in business, anybody personal that you want to meet? We want to put that into the atmosphere and speak it to existence.
So most definitely. So like I said, we always got our mentors, but you also got to have your role models, and so, I don't know how far-fetched it is, but Drake is one of the people I would like to meet just for the simple fact that, he came from a totally different, diverse thing and made it what he had to do and then flipped it. And now he's like the best thing that ever happened. And so I would like to ask him, a lot of different questions in terms of, what made you try to do this? What made you try to do that? But I really focus on a lot of what he does, just because, not because he's popular, but just for the simple fact that, he came from Nickelodeon, something that's, to like, he's a
Really
powerhouse.
pop, and now he's owning jets.
He's in jets, and whatever else he's into. And so the diversification of him really is dynamic for me, because I like diversity. I just like that a lot. And so to answer your question, I would like to meet him, which is very, very, very close to maybe.
Yeah.
But we ain't talking about that.
We're gonna make it happen.
But in the business sense, not really. I really don't have no inspirations of just because I've grown up in it.
Okay.
And then I've grown up in a lot of different businesses, and it's came up and it's come down, and business is just a cycle of what you've learned, and then what you do, and then what demand is out there and what supply is out there. It was funny because one last story.
Yeah.
So a teacher of mine said, "Are you here for a business degree?" It was a professor at Houston Baptist University. "Are you here for a business degree?" He was in education. I said, "Yeah, I'm excited. I think it was like my first semester." He's like, "Yeah." He was like, "It's not that much. Business degree is supply and demand. Then you get your net worth, and you're gross, and you're out." And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah." And I thought about that, and I was like, "Well, you're right. You sell something, you cut your expenses, and you get X amount." Some hypothetically, but at the same time, it's funny that somebody at that caliber could just downplay it that low, and that just right there automatically says, okay, maybe he is a teacher because he doesn't like or understand a lot of the stuff or whatnot. But but yeah, most definitely,
man. Well, I appreciate you coming, man. Let's let this Drake happen. I feel like it's close. It's gonna happen, but man, if it can happen because of the show or
come on, Ron.
Something happening. Something's gonna happen. We're gonna make it happen.
We're gonna make it happen.
But man, if anybody is interested, and you don't have to give it out if you don't want to. If anybody interested in following you and your story, your journey, or have a question because they just want to get more information about what you talked about, is there any way for them to get in contact with you or reach you, or don't have to?
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you can always reach me on Instagram, Vic23. I'm always available. My phone number's on LinkedIn, Victor Alencastro. If you want to reach out to me through my email, it's on my LinkedIn as well.
Okay.
There's another segment. We'll talk about it later, but it's a real estate segment. We'll talk about that later that I would like to bring in. And there's a lot of ways to make money.
Absolutely.
You just got to pick one and go with it.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. And man, tune in next episode. We're going to be episode 11. It's going to be 2020.
It's going to be live.
It's going to be live. But nonetheless, thank you guys. Happy New Year to everyone out there. And see you guys next week.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Melvin.
Man, thank you.
You got it.
Bro, fire.
That's good.
Another fire. Fire.
Dude. That shit was player, man.
Man.
That shit's crazy.
I love it.
That's so much fun, dude.
It is.
No wonder you like doing all that. That's a lot of fun.